Hey everybody. So I thought I would start just by demonstrating a few limes. I thought, or you could do anything you want, but I want to show you that there's just so many different ways we can put color into our sketch. So just as a simple start off of just starting with just maybe experimenting with the supplies that I have and showing you what this could look like. I started off just with just a regular pencil drawing, but I'm going to also show you too. We're going to experiment with some ink as well and with water soluble pencils. One thing you can certainly do is have some watercolors. Watercolors like a really fast way to add color really fast. It's a fast way to add color fast. That's good. Anyway, it is a quick way to add your color, to put just a splash of color on something and try things out. So again, just having a water brush. I think I've showed you those when we were talking about supplies. And it's just super simple just to go in and add a little color to your sketch. And it doesn't have to be anything fancy at all, anything super accurate. I'm like holding on to my white. If you've ever taken a watercolor class, that's you can also take up color with your paper towel or a sponge, um, and change it that way a little bit. I can go in with this white area and say, oh, I'll add a little yellow in there too, and just start thinking about your values. So just like when we talked about values with the within the pencils and pens and the mark making, there's also definitely a range of values in your color and a range of hues. And there's the local color, what you see, as well as what the color looks like in the shadow and in the light and how it changes. So having a little bit of understanding of that as you look at your color wheel and examine it more. And some of you are painters, so this is just nothing new to you at all. But for those that have never played with color, just I want you to know what the capabilities are. So as this, in watercolor, you can definitely pick stuff up. You can pick it up with dry brushes as well as the paper towel and move color around. And I'm working in a fairly thick sketchbook. So I'm not going on with a whole lot of water, because if you do too much in your sketchbook, the paper's going to wrinkle up. But just adding a little bit of that isn't going to really affect things too much. Oftentimes in a sketch too, I might be working away and then I want, a little reinforce my line or something. I'll go back in with some pencil for maybe the shadow or something, or to reinforce the line that way. It's getting super dark. And so as I do that, I can see, okay, with the water soluble pencil, I can make that then work with my sketch. I can soften it, right? And make it a little less, maybe I didn't want it quite that dark, a little less dark, and I can pull out the shadow and play with that water soluble pencil. And maybe it's not a graphite, but maybe you have the water soluble color pencils. We'll look at those next. Let me soften that one a little bit. But just so you see, I just want you to see you can definitely do a lot of things by adding a little bit of color into your sketch. You can add some texture. You go back in with watercolor. They certainly dry up and dry lighter than what I put on. So I probably want to go in one more time. On a sketch, I'm keeping it relatively casual. If it was a formal painting, then I definitely would add more layers of color. You might have one of the watercolor pencils. This one's like huge, but it was given to me. And it was the perfect color for a lime. So I thought, okay, I'll try that. So I can then, I can be sketching with these, which is fun because, of course they come in all different colors, and you can even blend them too. You can put them directly onto your paper. You can also like color them onto something with a little bit of a tooth and pick it up with a watercolor. I'll show you that in a second. Let me just do that first. So as we color a little bit, maybe I'll get a little color on there, and maybe I'm knowing that I'm going to want to highlight up here. So if I've got a whole set of these, this is a different one. I can do that. This is the Caran d'Ache ones, I think, is it? Yeah. Anyway, even like getting a blue, knowing that that's going to mix with my green and get a darker green. So I might not have a dark green pencil, but I can go in and get some value range with that. And maybe layer a little bit more of the green on top of that. So notice as it's turning under, I've got shadow, right? I've got my light source coming here. That's my brightest bright. I might even add a little bit of green on top of that. And then you'll see what happens when I add the water. So I'm going to use this water brush again, but you can use a regular brush dipped in water. You can use a Q-tip, anything you want to move this color around and change it. So you see that adding water to a watercolor pencil, of course, is going to activate it. If I don't want it all the way green up here, I want to keep some of that yellow. I'm going to just get some of that color off my brush, let it drip off. I can also go back in with more yellow pencil if I want. Now see here where I'm adding, where the blue was added, see how that's turning into a darker green. And maybe after I can even make more texture if I want to see some of those bumps of the lime and get into a little bit more detail, I can. But just know that there's another way of quickly adding color. Let's add a shadow to that because I feel like if I use the blue, I can get a little nice shadow there too. Let it sit. Just kind of ground the object. As that dries, I can go back in for sure. There's got a little bit more water than I want, but anyway, if it dries too light, I can go back in and add more. And these are just really quick showing you how some of these different mediums work. And I know that a lot of you already know this, but some, if you don't, it's really good. Playing with your color wheel and knowing too what's going to be opposite on that color wheel. Like what kind of, like sometimes your sketch just wants a little pop of color, and maybe you're just going to do like 2 colors just to kind of make your sketch pop. Maybe it's all pencil sketch everywhere else, but you want a pop of color or 2, and having opposites really makes that jump out, doesn't it? So looking at your color wheel and playing with color themes and ideas that way, different color palettes. Get that green out of that. I can color that in. It's now not quite as opposite. It's getting a lot more yellow than I knew this was going to be. I thought it was more orange, but it's still kind of a nice combination, having a background sometimes. So sometimes just putting a little bit of that in, and maybe you've got other stuff drawn around it that's not colored, or maybe you're coloring the whole sketch. Doesn't really matter. Your thing to do. See, another way to put down color is with pan pastels. So you may or may not have seen these before, but if you've seen them in the art store and have never tried them, they're lots of fun. They come in just a variety of colors. That's not showing up the color it is. That's so weird. Okay, anyway, it's looking a lot darker than it is. You can put these down with like a makeup applicator. You can put them down with even just your fingers. So, or a Q-tip. But again, sometimes you have a sketch and you just want a little bit of color in that. And so I should probably use the applicator, but I'm looking for them. They've disappeared. Anyway, we'll make this work. So just getting a little color on, sometimes you just want a little smudge of color just to show something in your sketch. That's a little dark. So I don't usually use my fingers for these, but it does work. And you can layer them. You can also use like regular pastels too, just the chalk pastels or oil pastels. All of those things are adding colors. So there's just so many ways. Pastels, again, are also water soluble if you didn't know that. Oftentimes I will use a little bit of vodka to paint with because that's going to dry way faster than water. But I can blend. I can get my water brush on that too if I want. So it's kind of neat to know that you can do this with this regular stick pastels or with these pan pastels to add some water and get some definition that way. So it's just one more possibility for you. All right, so let's see, what didn't I show you yet? Coarser's markers, that's another way to add color. Oh, and crayons. So crayons, you know, you get the Crayola 64 box. I also have these ones that I love. These are the beeswax ones. So they're just really creamy. I like them a lot. So I'll put that. And I don't know, there's just something really wonderful about using a crayon. It just makes me feel like a kid again. I can be playful with it. I can say, okay, maybe this lime is gonna, maybe I want to put something different. I can get some of those mark making things in too, you know, like, or hatch marks, or maybe the little bumps of the lime, texture marks. I can even, you know, if I wanted, if you're really into, you know, like playing with this, like you can get a blow dryer to this and kind of melt the wax a bit, because I do a lot of that with my encaustic work. Again, maybe putting a shadow down, grounding with it, but just to see what different colors we'll do on top of it. Maybe just seeing what some goofy with the color a little bit if I wanted, or have that orange background, but either way, you can layer color with crayons. You can just, if you didn't want that bright green and you want to deaden it a little bit, maybe that the lime isn't quite as bright. Layering the colors is going to give you some neat effects. Kind of sharpen this one soon. Anyway, but you get the idea. I think everybody here has probably colored with crayons before. They're fun to grab out again and try. Okay, so you might you might have markers. You might have this is one of those Faber-Castell, I think, Pitt pens. And so maybe you are just drawing your sketch with the pen, with the colored pens to begin with. So that's always an option too. So maybe you didn't draw it in pencil or pen, and you're just going straight in with your color pencils or colored pens or whatever and drawing it with that. And that's absolutely another way you can handle the sketch, and just treat color that way, as, you know, switching out. You can get some really interesting mark making. Maybe you wanted to do stippling and layers and layers and layers of stippling with this, which I shouldn't have probably done a straight line across as I drew it, but here, we'll try it again. Let's do one next to it. If I wanted to maintain that light, right, that's up there coming down that same kind of direction that we've been doing on these, I would maybe just have just like a light stippling there, but as it comes down here, I can give it more definition. And I don't know if I'd stipple it or I could cross hatch and come around that way. But maybe a combination, because it is a lime and there's this interesting texture. But you get the idea. So, and you can mix it up with markers too, of course. So adding other colors in with it. You know, I don't do a whole lot of marker work, just because I usually will, my choice of color adding on is usually going to be the watercolors. But if you like pens and this is how you work best, these are very convenient, of course, to carry with you, carry a set of pens with you. And then interchange them, if, you know, with other colors and things too. So, so there's a thought. Also, let's move over this way. You might want to be using, maybe you are already sketching in black pen, right? And then you decide to add color. So it's sort of the urban sketching ideas, as a lot of it is in black pen. You go, you do your sketch, you come home and you ink it, or you ink it, or you fill it in with watercolors. Same idea of inking or adding colored pencil and things like that. So it's always good to know too, and I don't always remember, so it's good to test, but let's just do one for fun anyway. Let's say I'm there somewhere and I am drawing this lime, I'm out and about, and I come home and I want to add color. So maybe I've already drawn it and I've already gotten some of this mark making and texture to it, little parts, maybe stippling, I don't know. So I've done a little bit of line work, right? And then I decide, you know, it's a lime. I want some of that lime green to show up. So I can come in then and try it. And here's the thing, if this, well, and we'll find out right now if this is water soluble or not, but if I come back in then with my, to add my watercolor, I'll know right away if it's going to smear or not. Yeah, and so this one is not, it is water soluble. So see, I'm losing, it's going to muddy it. Sometimes letting them dry for a bit works and you can keep going, but often it's best just to know that, and this isn't horrible, but it's nice to know if it's water soluble or not. Because if you're going to do like a whole inking of a whole drawing, you don't want it all having to deal with a lot of mud. But sometimes that mud, I mean, that's not horrible, but you know, it kind of depends on what it is you're looking for. So kind of knowing, you know, it's good to know what your pens do. Like a Sharpie, if that was drawn in Sharpie, Sharpie's generally not going to be water soluble. Let's say if we did stippling with that. Maybe I have a little line work going in the bottom. And I decide, oh, nope, I really want to add color to that line. So I go back in with my watercolor. We'll see. So see, that's not going to go anywhere. It's also very dark, but it's not going to go anywhere. It's not turning into mud. So it's a way just to add color on top of your drawing. So Sharpie is one that is not water soluble. This other one is the graphic that is. And there's all the in between. So kind of just trying the pens you like and seeing what they do. Because I have a hard time remembering, wait, was that one or wasn't, you know? So just, oh, that's a fountain pen. So I don't remember what ink is in it, but we'll see. We'll do another one. But you can also, the other option is in how you're going to add the color. So maybe you have this ink drawing and maybe it isn't something that's going to be a little bit iffy on whether it's going to move on your paper. But you can say, okay, well, I'm just going to use colored pencil instead. So there's the regular colored pencils too that aren't water soluble. But you could just go over it with that. And just for kicks, I'm going to try it with the brush too, just to see what this one is. Yeah, see, so that one is water soluble. So see, it was going to move it. And if you do that and you're getting in, you're wrecking a drawing you had, you can always pick it up best you can and then say, okay, let me just finish this off with colored pencil instead, if you were wanting to add color to your drawing, to your sketch. Okay, so that would be a good thing just to try out what you have, see what it does, see when it reacts, the pens, when they react or not, and just play with the things that you have. There's so many different kinds of markers out there, so many different, you know, boxes of colored pencils and something that you could just throw in your backpack or your bag or whatever when you go out and about and say, I want to add color to my sketch. So I would say try what you have on something comfortable like this. So whether it's a lime or a pear or, you know, whatever fruit, you know, just practice drawing it with lots of things so you see what your options are. That's one of the things I'll be having you do this week. But if it's not that, you know, if you're not excited by doing a piece of fruit and really want to do some water, try the ocean or if you want to do, you know, try some portraits or whatever it is. Like I said, you could use this exercise with anything that you want. But the idea is just to take one thing and try it lots of ways or with whatever you have. Give it a try. All right, so have fun with this. It's a great exploration.